Everybody, drop your buffs.
Drop your buffs.
Everybody, drop your buffs.
Drop your buffs.
Everybody, drop your buffs.
Hello, everyone. This is Boston Rob here. Welcome to Drop Your Buffs podcast, where we recap the strategy, social game, and stupidity of each Survivor episode. I'm here with my co-star, Sandra. Sandra, where'd you go, Sandra? Sandra?
Rob, you didn't see me because I was behind this palm front. I can get loud too.
You were there the whole time.
I was here the whole time, Rob.
So for the audio, Djon has a giant palm frond that he was hiding behind. And I have a beautiful, glorious Boston Red Sox hat. Boston Rob would be proud of me.
I apologize for my Sandra accent. I told you I can't do it, but I tried.
And I apologize for my Boston Rob accent. I just make my Boston family want to remove me from their family every time.
Well, here we are. It's actually us. We dressed up for Halloween. We have the wonderful Hannah, who I'm going to give you a fun fact this week.
Okay.
And is actually an absolutely wonderful videographer. She's videoed some weddings and other events that she's actually videoed this season of the Survival Challenge, which is a fun fact for everyone at home. So we competed in 2018, and then we both went back to volunteer, and Hannah spent hours out in the weather, dripping with sweat, amongst the new contestants, volunteering her time, and she did an amazing job. So well done, Hannah. I just love all your fun facts. They make me happy.
So funny you bring that up, because I was literally thinking about that at the end of this episode when Sandra and Rob are in their little tree house and watching the tribal council. I literally thought of this summer why volunteering at Survival Challenge was so much fun, because you're watching Survivor front and center. So I love it so much.
Yeah, they're getting a front and center viewing of this season playing out.
My random fact about Djon is that one time he was on Team Iceland, where he was crowned the winners of a matinee performance of a song contest at the Almost Eurovision. I obviously know what I'm talking about. And he was on stage as the Ulfer Wolfer, and I don't know what that means, but he looks fabulous.
Okay, so I was in a stage show called Song Contest, the Almost Eurovision Experience. And for the listeners at home, yeah, absolutely. If you know what Eurovision is, it's a singing competition that takes place in Europe that's been happening for years. I'm talking about 70s, 80s, people like Celine Dion have participated, ABBA, people like Aqua. They've all gone and competed to represent their countries. So in Australia, I was part of a stage comedic version, if you will, for the Melbourne Comedy Festival, where I participated in quite a few different countries. I was in the Iceland company, if you will, as Ulfa Wolfa. So you did very, very close.
The Ulfa Wolfa.
The Ulfa Wolfa. And we just had a lot of fun on there. And every time that we performed, the audience got to download the app, vote for which country they wanted to win. And at the end of the show, that country would reprise their song and perform again. So that was a lot of fun.
Wow. That makes sense now. I had no idea what was going on. Okay, so are you ready to jump into this episode?
I'm ready. I've got my palm front. I'm ready.
Okay, so the fever dream, we saw the sand going down. We saw someone said, thinking about it makes me sweaty. Someone said, shut up. Is that what Elaine said?
Elaine said, shut up. And then we had the shocked face from Elizabeth.
Oh, of course, Elizabeth's face, which we will see a ton of this episode. And then we cut right to Lyra Beach, post Tom vote out. Noura wants Jamal or Jack on. She tells Dean. What does Dean do? Detective Dean?
He tells Jamal.
And Jamal says that he wants Noura gone.
And here we are. It was one episode of loving Noura, feeling like she was in a good spot, and it was just, it couldn't last longer. I'm
No.
devastated.
So are you saying within seconds of watching this, you knew it was bad?
I know it was bad. My theory at the end of the last episode, which you told me that you could absolutely not see happen, was confirmed.
Like, because I said that I could absolutely not see Noura successfully pulling off a move.
Yeah.
And
Well,
you said, you were right by saying this is the right move for her to make a
right.
new alliance of the underdogs or whatever, the
Yeah.
outcasts. And I
Yeah.
said I could not see her doing it.
Yeah. However, I feel like we got little clips of next week where she tries again. So there's still hope that she might be able to pull something off because I love Noura and I want to see that move happen. So I guess we'll wait and see.
Yeah. So then we cut to Vokai Beach where I loved this scene. The way we cut to Vokai Beach is that Tommy and Elaine
Mhm.
are watching Dan move not Jamal, Jason's buff around and make his buff really good, and they're joking about how they're dressing him for prom. And then I think like Tommy says he's got no date though.
Nope.
How
It's so
dare
funny
they? How dare
because
they?
they
I
had
never had a date for prom. What's wrong with that? You can still dress up and look pretty.
I mean, have you looked at Tommy? He clearly had a date to every prom.
Gosh,
So
and classic like throwing other people under the bus for not having a date. Jeez, Tommy.
what a jerk move. I think we've discovered Tommy's true colors, but I think we're still okay with him.
I know, but we're still okay with it. Yeah, Tommy kind of had a rough episode this go, didn't he? Like we saw some.
I feel like this was the episode that flipped things upside down. Villains were turning into heroes. Heroes were coming out not looking so great.
No.
It was an absolute juxtaposition on this season of Survivor.
So we were in the upside down, like Stranger Things. We were just seeing things not as
It's
they
a
are.
Halloween episode, and we had a Stranger Things episode of Survivor. I'm so excited for this.
And just like 11 has blood coming
Mhm.
down her nose, we had Lauren having tears come down her eyes when you know
It's
something.
exactly like that. Exactly like that.
Yeah, so woo, that's crazy. So all right, so then we cut to Elaine telling
Mhm.
her Lyra people that she will go to Rocks for them, and that right, we're all on the same page, right? We're all gonna go to Rocks. Immediately cut to Aaron saying no, and Missy saying no, and Elaine saying and Elizabeth saying no.
Nope. And see, that's so disappointing because I feel like Elaine has the best intentions. And, obviously we see how the episode plays out, but very early on in the episode, it's clear that her people are willing to jump on her, even though there's no saying that if they go to Rocks, that one of them's even going to get voted out. They're all
Right.
willing to cut her off,
Yeah.
knowing that going forward, if they lose every challenge, they're just going to go home one by one. It's like, that's big. I mean, we didn't see that from the other tribe. They were all very clearly going to go to Rocks. So it just goes to show that there's definitely trouble in paradise for the original Lyra tribe.
See, what I would do in her situation, I don't know if this is the typical Survivor strategy, but I would be the Aaron that would be like wanting to flip and wanting to be the top dog out of all the rest of my former tribe. Like I would want to flip so I could be number 5 out of that side. But there's no guarantee that you would be the top.
There's no guarantee. And I think we will never get to see that version play out because we discovered after our reward challenge that someone was going to the Island of Idols, and that someone just so happened to be Elaine, which I think was extremely poetic of this episode.
It really was. And then Elaine even said, like, I wanted to play. And then what did Jeff said?
Comment.
You were already sitting out.
Yes. It's just like, it could have like, it's funny because it's just those little comments that it's like clearly she's just throwing something and he's just throwing something. And
Right.
we're all sitting there going, these are real moments. This is funny. This is fun. And I'm noticing we're getting a lot of more real moments. I think I mentioned this in one of our last episodes where it's like, this is the episode that when you watch Jack hold a buff in Tommy's face and he reacts like disgusted. Today we had that moment of Tommy and Jason doing these like shocked faces when it came to the chicken getting its head cut off.
Right.
And just like playing around. Like Tommy is a character. He's definitely showing that he's there to have fun and get along with people. And I think we're going to talk a lot about Tommy this episode, but I think we definitely saw the separation between game and people. And that's what I'm really enjoying about this season.
Yeah, I love those little life moments that we get to see. Like, every Survivor contestant says, oh my gosh, there's so much you don't get to see. And they talk about like how boring it is out there. And it was really fun seeing Jamal teaching the West African dance. Like that was so cool.
Loved
like
this.
those little moments are really great.
So my biggest takeaway from that is that it was Kelly who was the one that he was teaching. And I'm sitting here going, that girl is playing this game so well right now.
I didn't even think about that.
So well-rounded. She's getting along with everybody. Last episode, we saw her being the decider really of where the vote falls. And I just see her being someone who, once this season is said and done, I think she's going to be remembered. I think that we haven't seen the last of Kelly, and I don't think she's going to be. I definitely see her making the merge and possibly making it very far into this game.
Yeah, I see her making those connections and those bonds right now that are going to set her up real good. And she might be able to slither her way all the way through the merge.
I think she's playing very smart, and I'm interested. I always say this. I'm interested to see where she goes in this game.
I'm looking forward to see her potential. One thing I wanted to say about the reward challenge, where they're like getting those bags of something and they're throwing them and they're super heavy, is our guy Dan. We haven't talked about Dan in like forever, but he's kind of the older guy on Bokai. He's always sweaty. He's just like always has sweat on him no matter what's going on. I just like loved this moment where they're throwing the bags to the cart. I don't remember. I don't really pay attention to the challenges unless they're like amazing. And but what grabbed my attention was Dan Hulk screaming as he throws the bags. He was like, "Ah, ah," like he's like some tough guy, like giving his all.
I feel like it was Jason who would have to go and pick up the bags that he was throwing, and I'm pretty sure he said, "Be careful where you're throwing these things."
Oh my god!
Because he was just aimlessly throwing it as far as he could.
That's why he was screaming.
You're right. And so like their dynamic has been very funny. Obviously we saw a few opportunities for them in this episode. And I think we had that highlighted because this is the last episode that we were going to be able to see their dynamic. But I'm sure there's so many dynamics between people in this season that we actually don't get to see. Actually, that's a really interesting factor. I mean, we saw no Karishma this episode, and we've seen a lot of Karishma. Well, I mean, I think
it's been the Karishma show for days.
Right. And it's like, I think that the giveaway that their tribe won immunity, even though I was kind of still shocked that they won, was we hadn't seen anything about Karishma or who would be going home from their tribe.
See, I was wondering,
obviously the Noura thing, but it was so fleeting.
Yeah, I was wondering, like, are we not seeing anything because we're going to see it at the end? Or like, are they actually going to win in a complete upset? Because I can't imagine them winning anything.
Yeah, so we haven't seen a challenge like this before, obviously where the tribe is caged up and they have to shoot for hoops. But the moment that kind of caught my attention was it looked like one of the balls was going to land in a hoop that had already had a ball in it.
Yeah.
And it was one of those moments that it makes you wonder what scenes from challenges we don't see. And I was thinking that maybe the way that the wall was angled, there were beams along it. It almost looked like somebody had the ability to climb up the wall, get the extra ball out, and go again. which is possibly why we saw
Oh,
Missy looking so exhausted. Because not
that's what I
only
was
is she running
wondering.
everywhere, yeah, well, she was running everywhere trying to retrieve the balls. Like, I can imagine that would be hard enough. But then
Right.
if you would have to like climb the wall, grab the ball, and I know we were discussing this in our group chat, and one of the other people in the group mentioned that that might be why it was those people retrieving the balls because they were slighter. They'd probably have a better chance of climbing. And that
Mm-hmm.
might be why they were in that position because it didn't necessarily make sense of a choice if it really was just to retrieve the balls, to choose those
Yeah.
people.
I definitely was confused when it came to that. So I feel like there was like a mess up at some point explaining the challenge or like understanding what was going on. Like it's super interesting, but yeah, I was like, wait, why is Missy so wiped right now when Jamal's I mean, when Aaron's the one doing all the shooting.
Right. And that's the thing. It's like it's one of those like ones in the water where that person has to swim out, retrieve the ball, come back. Like
Yep,
it's an
yep.
exhausting
When you get to the
task to
last
do.
ball too, when the last one, that's when it really gets you.
Yep, absolutely. But yeah, so we saw the challenge, and Vokai wins as we always have seen them win.
Shocker.
And they get to partake in a reward, which unfortunately it wasn't Applebee's. I mean, when he asked them what they were
Applebee's?
playing, I know when he was asking them what they were playing for, and I guess they all could hear it because they got chickens, which was this was our chicken challenge of the season.
Which we haven't seen chickens in a while because famous singer Sia does not appreciate chickens being on Survivor because she is like an animal activist. So we haven't
Okay,
seen chickens in a while. So I thought that they were
we
done
we saw
for.
them with Wendy, so
Oh, we saw
obviously
them
we
get
had.
released. You're right.
But that's
Maybe
the
I'm
thing. We saw
thinking
them
of
get released.
we haven't seen them die in a while. Maybe that's what I meant.
Probably. I mean, Ty turned them into pet friends, and it's
Mark,
always a
don't you
fun.
forget his name. Mark. Mark the chicken.
Oh, ugh. I just remember breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Oh, that
Um,
was a good one. Who did that?
yeah, I'm pretty sure they've done it on multiple seasons. I think that's kind of a tradition now.
That's a great thing to name your chicken.
Yeah.
Okay, so when Elaine was chosen to go to the island of the idols, what were you expecting? Like, what did you think was going to happen with her and her reaction and whatnot?
I definitely realized in the fever dreams at the start that there was the sand falling out of the bottle. That
Hmm.
instantly screamed Island of Idols to me. That's going to
Yeah,
be a task of some sort. I didn't think that it was going to be like necessary. I knew there was going to be a timed element, but I thought maybe something had to be done in a certain amount of
that's
time
what
in
I thought
terms of
too.
a task
Hmm.
versus a choice.
Yeah,
Um, but I mean, it was kind of surprising that she jumped on it as quickly as she did.
she
Then
pulled a
again,
Nora. She did.
she
She just jumped
pulled.
right on it.
I mean, Elizabeth was pretty close with her response as well. I do think
That
that
is true.
people get a little starstruck and they get a little bit eager to please and impress.
And who is
Um,
our only one that wasn't quick to pull the trigger?
I
Kelly.
mean, that was Kelly. That's
Kelly,
true.
she took
Vince
her time
did
to
go
think
in
it
pretty
through.
quickly. Yeah, I mean, she's the only one that's had the stakes raised. We
Because she
haven't
was
seen the
taking her
stakes raised
time.
in a while.
No. See, I was thinking when the sand was pouring, I was thinking that they were going to be like, all right, you have to make a decision quick. And then, like, Elaine should have taken her time to hear more about it. And then while the sand is going, Boston Rob would be like, what if I offered you 3 block votes? You know what I
Right.
mean? So like
Yeah.
I maybe that was gonna happen. I was kind of disappointed when she just jumped on it, but I loved her
Me
little
too.
confessional about it. She said, like, I'm not out here just for the million. I'm out here for everything that I have to experience. And that was so precious. And everybody loves her.
Well, we did learn a little bit more about her, which is that her mother passed away 3 months before she went to the island.
Wow.
Yeah. So this is new information to us.
Right.
For what I believe, we haven't heard this
Mm-mm.
unless I don't know if it was in her introduction video prior to the season being aired, but this is news to
Mm-hmm.
me. And I think this is something that the audience can kind of grasp in terms of connecting on an emotional level.
I had actually listened to an interview of her before the game started. So I did hear the story of her mother passed away while she was in the middle of casting for Survivor. So I'm pretty, or when she found out she was going to go on Survivor, it was something around that time. So I just can't believe that hardship she's had to go through getting ready for Survivor. So if you think about it, she's been looking forward to Survivor for 3 months, just like, I just got to get there. I just got to get there. And you know what I mean? Just like looking for so much more. And this isn't the first time that we've had a survivor
No.
with a loved one who's passed away prior that has really affected them. Like right now I'm thinking of Sugar Kuiper from Survivor Gabon, and that was her story. A lot was about her growth and whatnot.
Yeah, we also saw Tina in Panama. She was the first boot of her season, but she actually missed out on participating in the season earlier because her son had passed away. And we then saw her on the next season of the show, so she had that time to grieve her son's passing. But that was one of those moments that it really goes to show how much this experience can mean to people.
Mm-hmm.
Another person we had was Jenna Maraska. In All Stars, she actually quit the game in order to be by her mother's side as she passed away.
Mm-hmm.
Another one, obviously Adam Klein was one of those people that he got to his mother's bedside as well as she passed away. There's actually multiple people that have participated in this game where they've had loved ones who are ill, but it just
Mm-hmm.
goes to show how much this game means to them, because it really is life changing. And so many people just see it as 15 minutes of fame, but it really goes to show that it can mean a lot, not only to them, but the people that are in their life.
And at the same time, it also, I feel like we hear a lot that people come out of Survivor appreciating life more, appreciating their loved ones more. And like at the end of the day, what's the most important thing to them is their loved ones. And so it's kind of that same balance,
And it's funny, it's as much as it is even their loved ones, like it's the small things that they take for granted. I remember a beautiful scene from Survivor Marquesas where they had a confessional from Vizepia, who ended up winning the season, and just talking about how she'll never throw away the ends of a loaf of bread again. It's one of those things of like, we're out here starving and struggling, and you just so easily throw those things away. But those are the things you just kind of wish you had right now in this moment. So I feel like there's a lot of life lessons to get out of this game, including a really special moment that we saw this episode between Jamal and Jack, which was very much a life lesson in terms of diversity and acceptance between different people. And I know what you're thinking. This was the moment that for me, I went, maybe Jamal's not that bad of a guy. And I've never thought of him as being a terrible human being.
I know.
Just for me,
I know you
getting
mean
that villain edit.
Yeah.
And I just sat there watching his whole moment where he got to have his say on what it means to be an African American male, and being out there on the island and representing a community of people, and how something that is a small comment can speak volumes to a community of people. And he just gave us really good examples. He was extremely articulate. He was quite composed. There wasn't any aggression in how he was saying it. I was kind of like, where was this guy at Tribal Council? Because he was a little bit heated when he was talking to Jason at that time. But he was very level-headed, and it was so nice to see such an important conversation taking place, being had. And then I almost feel like it was a real moment like we saw between Dan and Kelly. It's like, we need to acknowledge what it means to have personal space and different people having boundaries and all that kind of stuff. Obviously, this is on a completely different scale, but it is two people in a game having a moment that isn't being tainted by the other people in the space.
Yes.
And I think it was a really special moment that not only for Survivor fans, but, for everybody watching this show, I think it was a really nice, articulate way to get something across that, as he said himself, can be a hard conversation to have.
Yeah. And I just felt for Jack, because I feel like we all have those moments in our young 20s of like where you just like learn something the hard way by something you say or joke about, and then you like, oh, and you learn from it.
Mhm.
Well, Jack learned from it on national television. But
Right.
that, you know what? I feel like there was, how many people were watching Survivor? How many children were watching who needed to see that
Right.
and learn
I
from that?
I was just about to say, like, he didn't just learn a lesson. He helped hundreds of people learn a lesson.
Mhm.
Because I mean, it was almost something that I even didn't grasp the um the weight of it in the moment, because it was
Mhm.
said in such a lighthearted moment. For me, being somebody who's from another country, where I'm sitting here going, what is a durag? So to have the
Uh-huh.
description of that explained to me on TV, I'm glad I had that moment. Even though I'm a diverse individual,
Uh-huh.
I didn't
Uh-huh.
necessarily have that information. So I think a lot of people learned that lesson with him. And I think it was kind of well received, as I'm seeing a lot of things happening this season, which is delightful. I'm loving that
Mhm.
we're seeing some heavy topics being well received and being approached where it doesn't have to be a toxic approach on something that's real.
Right, and think about it from, the way they portrayed Jack. It wasn't like, "Oh, he made this joke. He's evil, and he's racist and whatever." No, it was like, Jamal, oh my gosh, Jamal is just my hero. He, he like said he was clear with Jack that he was offended by it, but
Hmm.
he was also willing to talk it through with Jack, accept his apology, and tell us in confessional that that apology is one that he'll never forget.
Yeah. And I think that was an important thing for us to see, that you don't have to hold on to things that were said without that person's, like, it wasn't said with malice. Jack didn't say
Mhm.
that with negative intentions. And even if he did say it with negative intentions, I hope that it would be handled in a positive way. We're lucky that we saw a situation that was, like I said earlier, well received, in terms of we can move on from this and we can move
Mhm.
forward from this. But it's something that I think is very important. With this is a very diverse cast, and we saw that moment where they said, "Is this a good time to have that conversation about diversity?" Or it was like, and then they're like, and Jack gets up and walks away.
Jack
Like,
walks
it really,
away.
and it kind of was like a refreshing moment for me, because you have people on that tribe like Jamal, you have Kelly, you have Karishma, and they did kind of like highlight these people
Mhm.
in that moment, to kind of
Mhm.
go like, we have a very diverse cast, we have a very diverse community. We're not going to shy away from these topics, because they're topics that should be able to be discussed without being like,
Mhm.
oh, let's not touch it. It's controversial. These shouldn't be controversial things to discuss. And I think that seeing more about this, starting with the whole personal space conversation at the start of
Mhm.
the season, and now talking about just being considerate of people's backgrounds and life. I don't want to say lifestyles, but their identity, as who they are in their community. Just being sensitive to that is just kind of like, we live in a day and age that if you reject the notion of learning something new, that's not seen in a good way. A lot of people shy away from, like, I don't want to change, I don't want to grow. And it's
Mhm.
like, we live in a world where you have to do those things in order to be, well received. And I don't think that we are the type of people that, where we are in our lives right now, will always know everything. We're always changing, always growing. And I think that knowledge is power. So let's be powerful and let's learn about everyone.
Yes. I agree. And like along kind of with what you're saying, Jamal has an amazing voice, and I could have him read me a story anytime because his voice is beautiful.
I'm sure he would absolutely love to hear that. He's like the Morgan Freeman of Survivor.
Oh my goodness. His voice is just like
It's very
goodness.
commanding.
Yeah, and it's very but it's also just like soft, you know? I don't know if that makes sense. Just
Reassuring,
next time you
comforting.
guys listen to Jamal talk, just like close your
Light a
eyes and
candle,
yeah,
burn some
you know.
incense.
Okay, so let's go to Elaine comes back from Island of Idols, and
Mhm.
Elizabeth says, "So who'd you meet? Who'd you meet?"
I loved that moment because we didn't see her do that with with Vince.
Right,
And whether it did happen or not, it
right.
was never televised to us. But we
Mm-mm.
definitely saw that moment between her and Elaine, and instantly they had a connection. And they've always had a connection, but this just kind of like
Yeah.
reaffirmed that connection because we saw Elizabeth, you know, considering voting out Elaine. So
Hmm.
it was a moment that I think was necessary.
Elizabeth is so good at this game, and she's a recruit. Like, she wasn't a giant Survivor fan who applied for it. Like, she kind of just like jumped on the bandwagon. I think she's really good with how she played the social situation, not like,
Mm.
um, so what happened, or like, or whatever. She was just upfront and like, so who'd you meet? Who'd you meet?
And
Just like, hmm,
that's something that I've wanted to highlight a lot this season, which is people are being upfront. People are saying,
yeah,
I'll talk to this person. People are saying, I've got this information. It's more of a give and take this season, where in past seasons, you know, people are tight-lipped about a lot of stuff. And I just think that there's so much information, there's so much uh, that people can communicate with and use as leverage, and it's
hmm.
just juicy and meaty, and that's what makes this season so freaking good, and I'm
You
just
know,
loving.
that's how Adam Klein said he played in Millennials vs. Gen X, that he played an upfront and honest game almost all the way through, but there's only a couple key instances where he lied and he made sure it counted. And I thought about like that might be the way to go. Just be like upfront and stop trying to play the Aaron game. But we'll get to that. We'll get to Aaron in a second. Ooh,
Yeah,
but before we go to the immunity challenge, we see that Elaine and Elizabeth are saying like, all right, you've got to get the advantage. I've got your back. This is going to be crazy. But I'm sitting at home thinking, it's actually not that big of a deal if the other four see her get it, because it's going to be block a vote anyway. So they're going to find out like later if she's going to block a vote, but I guess it would matter if she gets to hold on to it for a really long time and they don't want them to know she has it. Anyways, but I was kind
I
of thinking
agree.
like,
I agree.
what's the
That thought,
worst?
yeah, that thought definitely crossed my mind as well, because it's like, if worst comes to worst, you just grab it. They know you have it, you use it, you're in the better numbers anyway. But the
Yeah.
harm in that is that you give these people time to strategize, knowing
Yeah.
that there's something in play. And really, the harm of that would have fallen on the rest of the people in her tribe, because they would think that Elaine has an idol,
Yeah.
and then there's a good chance her side of the tribe would have voted for her to go home. So like there were consequences for the rest of the tribe seeing her do it. But I mean, even though they didn't see her do it, they almost saw it happen,
Yeah.
because
Oh dear. Oh,
she was not like swift, and you know, it was a disaster watching her try to put that thing down the back of her pants.
like I have never been so stressed being that zoomed in on the back of someone's little black shorts as they're trying to tuck in something. That was insane.
What a
Is there
terrible one.
is there anything else of note that you want to say about this immunity challenge? I mean, it wasn't that like
You know
um
what? Thinking
interesting.
back to the immunity challenge and the reward challenge, they almost blur together as one challenge for
Yeah,
me.
that's what I'm wondering. When we were talking about the reward challenge, were we talking? I don't remember what we were talking about. Like I don't even
Well,
remember what came first.
so was it the balls in the net? Was that actually the immunity challenge? Because
Yes.
the slingshot was the reward challenge.
Yeah.
So we already got that mixed up. Just a note to those at home: we're recording this the day of this week, because we have plans when we usually record the day after, when we've
Uh-huh.
managed to watch this a second time. So we literally watched the episode today, jumped on
Jumped
here,
on.
and we're just making it work. So, you know,
Uh,
this is these are the moments that we're going to find. So, yes. So the first one was the slingshots for the reward. And this time around, it's the immunity. And we see the balls being tossed for the nets. But in saying that,
yeah,
we saw Aaron be a beast in both of these challenges.
that is true.
So I'm finding that those guys that have been getting a rough edit up to this point, this was their episode.
Ugh, no, thank you. I do not like Aaron.
I know he's definitely the war dog of the season. I'm just gonna put it. You know, he said himself, "I'm the flip vote. I get to choose who goes home," and having the discussion of whether he made the right choice to stick with his original Iroh tribe and vote out a Vokai tribe member. Do you think that was in his best interest? How do you feel about that vote?
Oh my gosh. So now let's jump into Aaron.
Yeah.
Oh, like, okay. Do you know what mansplaining is?
What Aaron does?
Mansplaining?
Yeah. What Aaron does?
Yeah, like, I just feel like I would hate to be mansplained by him. Like, any conversation with him where he has to, like, explain something to me or so. Oh, I would just something about him makes my skin crawl.
Yeah. I
I
can
just
see
think
his
he's too
communication
cocky.
style being
He's too
questionable.
cocky, and he thinks that he's running everything. And you know
Yeah.
what? His move today was awful. And not like, remember how I said that I would flip on my 4 to try to be the 5th of the other, okay?
Uh-huh.
Now, okay, so I've said that. But what Aaron did was he just was toying with the other side and, oh, maybe we'll get a lane. Oh yeah, I'm with you guys. Oh yeah, I'm with you guys. But then he isn't with them and he just burnt all of his bridges with those people. There is no way he's getting back together completely with those people. They don't have his trust at all. And this was kind of reminiscent to me of a guy in high school who I loved the attention I got from this guy.
Okay.
And I just, I was just loving the attention and, oh, yeah, he's probably got a crush on me. And then we go on one kind of date. I think it was like a group. We went on one date and I was like, oh no, what am I doing? This isn't a guy for me. And then I just like flat out just left him at the curb, just I didn't jump and but I just like, nope, right, I'm done. And poor guy, like I just had that flashback of just toying with the others, like, oh yeah, we're gonna work together, blah blah blah. And they're like, nope. And that's what
Okay.
Aaron did tonight.
So the rest of Vokai was left on the curb to deal with the consequences of what just
They got
took place.
ghosted.
Well, can I tell you why I disagree with your thought on this? I actually think it was the right move for him to make.
To toy with them and then dump them?
No, not to toy with them. Because here's the thing. He was technically toying with Elaine. He had every intention of flipping the vote until she had this, this vote happen. So I actually think he has some leverage now. Because by removing somebody from the other side, he now gets to flip over to that other side, knowing that there's no longer an advantage to take away a vote. He can still be in a 4 with 3 people that voted differently to how he did. But if he goes back to them and says, I couldn't vote with you guys, she had the advantage, and I needed to honor that, because if I were to jump with you guys, it would have, for whatever reason, make up an idea for why it would have been a terrible move. Now they have 4 against 3. They can take out the 3 girls one by one if he really does want to stick with them.
With Vokai?
And
if he wants to stick with the other side.
Right. So if he wants to move to the new side and take out his former tribe, they have no wiggle room. They have nowhere to go. Their only option is to work with him. I actually think that with the flashes of what we've seen of next episode, it looks like Lauren's more upset with Missy's vote, because she turns around to Missy and says, I trusted you, with tears in her eyes. So I'm wondering if Aaron actually got himself to a 4th place in that group of people rather than
Mm-hmm.
being in the fifth.
I
So,
think, yeah. So what I'll say is I agree with you. I think the move that Aaron did was the right move once we had the advantage from Elaine. I
right.
I don't think you go to rocks with these people.
No.
Um, maybe he should have waited till Elaine got back from the island and got information from her before he set up this whole like flipping thing, because he just hurt these people that he promised his vote to. So yes, I agree with you that like, yeah, you stick with your original alliance. And I love what you said. I love how you said he gets out someone from their side, but then he could also flip to their side and now he's in a higher number with them.
Mhm.
It just depends on if they'll be playing him along and then get rid of him later.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I honestly think that he was going to be at the bottom of that tribe, you know,
Mm-hmm.
in
Because he's the
that half
worst.
of the tribe. He's the worst, but also
Sorry.
he's not. I think it was okay. I also think it was interesting that they chose Jason to be the vote home, because we saw Jason be
Yeah,
on
that
the outs of his
totally
tribe,
shocked me.
right? And it's like, why strengthen their side by keeping the people who are aligned together? You know, maybe Jason was getting along better with them since the merge. Sorry,
Mm-hmm.
since the switch,
Mm-hmm.
but it almost seemed like he was the right option to keep in the game, because he'd be willing to kind of discuss things. But you know, we don't see their camp life. He was getting along with Dan very well, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe it seemed like a liability with how well he could relate to people in the game stance.
I can jump right now into my drop your buff moment since we're
Please
talking
go
about
ahead.
tribal.
Uh huh.
My drop your buff moment is when Elaine reaches in her sports bra to get her advantage out to reveal that she got to block the vote, which I
Mhm.
didn't realize that you have to read in the middle of tribal. I thought she
Mm,
but then I was like, oh yeah, this is the time when they do it. So
right.
I just like my drop your buff moment is just like her like reaching up her shirt, and I'm like, what is
Uh-huh.
happening right now?
You're like, why are you doing this? You don't have to do this. But the reality is, she did have to do that.
And then Boston Rob says, so when they block out Jason, just because they blocked his vote doesn't mean he's the mock.
And unfortunately, in this case,
He
he was.
was.
Uh,
He was the
I feel
mark.
so bad for him, because he fought his way back from a really bad situation, and the poor guy couldn't even get a fist bump from Aaron
No.
to get that confirmation that he wasn't going home. And I
Poor
think in that moment
guy.
he knew it was him, and I think we all knew it was him at that point as well.
I didn't know it was him, yeah, until the votes started getting read. And by that last vote, I was like, oh my gosh, it really is Jason. Like, I really thought it was going to be Lauren by the footage we were getting of Lauren. Every
Right.
time they would zoom in on her face, I was like, no, no. Every time, then when she started crying, I was like, no, please, no, not her. Anyone, you took Chelsea. Just give me Lauren.
I know, because the thing is, from what we've seen of the game, we know that Tommy and Lauren are two of the strongest social players in this game.
Mm-hmm.
So seeing them take out Jason seemed, maybe he was the person that had communicated with them the least and gave them less reason to believe that they can work with him moving forward in the game.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the only thing that makes me think that that might have been the right vote for them, because I'm kind of confused as to
Yeah.
why that went that way.
I mean, just like we said with the Tom, Dean, Karishma vote, you want to keep the people in the game who you feel like you can work with in the future. And maybe they were so confident in their ability to keep their numbers that they didn't even try. Some people, like Jason, might not have even tried to get in good with other people.
Yeah, I don't know.
So
Because
I have a
yeah, yeah, no, go for it.
I have a question that's like a little off topic, but I wanted to pick your brain about this real quick.
Please.
We heard Aaron, like this was the Aaron show again. All right, we heard Aaron say, I don't think tribal to tribal. I think 3 votes away. I think 3 rounds away.
Mhm.
And so I started, thinking like, okay, is that the way you should play Survivor? Tyson Apostle, who won Survivor, Blood versus
Blood versus
Water.
water.
He has played 2 other times besides that.
Hmm.
Tyson, I believe, says you always play like this is the vote you need to survive, and you always
Hmm.
play that way. But obviously, you need to set up a path to the end and have an
Hmm.
alliance for each vote. So I just wanted to pick your brain about that. What do you think about what Aaron said? That I don't think tribal to tribal. I think votes down the line.
I do think that you have to set yourself up for the next vote.
Mhm.
So it's kind of like, all right, I have to get through this round, sure, but this round is what's going to um, give me the leverage in the next vote. So I probably wouldn't be thinking 3 rounds from now, but I
Mhm.
definitely would be thinking about, all right, if we lose the next vote, am I at the bottom? So I'm
Mhm.
probably thinking 1 vote ahead. So I'm thinking
Mhm.
about this vote and I'm thinking about the next vote. Because at that point, if I say I can make it through this vote, but then I'm screwed in the next vote, don't make that move. You want to make sure that you're going to make a move that protects you for the following vote, which is, I think, where Nora's brain's at. If she sees either Karishma or Dean go, she knows she's going to be next. Because at that point, what is one former Lyra going to do? They're going to start picking each other. So I think that with Aaron's tactic, he actually might be thinking too far ahead.
Yeah. I'm I just feel like exactly what you said. You can think 1 vote ahead, but I kind of don't like it when people are strategizing for the merge or for the swap. Like they're like, "Oh, if we vote out this person right now, this will help us when it comes to the no, well, maybe I do. I'm fine with that. I don't know.
Well,
Sometimes, like, I
there's
hate
another,
the thinking too far ahead because then you can
yeah,
end up like tripping yourself.
yeah. And one of the things that I actually really liked hearing from Cochrane in his second season was that he said he would go to sleep every night and he would run
Okay.
through every single person's game. He would lay there and he would think, if I were that person, what's my best game? If I were
Okay.
that person, what's my best game? So he
Okay.
can then sit there, dissect each person's individual game, and then influence them to think that their best bet is what's in his best interest.
Okay.
So if he knew, oh, my next move is to take out Cochrane, I'm not going to beat him. That's his next target. Or he goes to that player and says, we need to work together, blah, blah, blah. Like he had to see things through every single contestant's eyes. We already saw Dean get caught out by Janet saying, you never communicated with me.
Right.
We've not had a conversation. I feel like that social game of putting yourself in the other people's shoes is a
Mhm.
huge asset in this game. And other games, things
Mhm.
like, Derek from Big Brother. He was another person who, undercover cop, putting himself in the position of other people extremely helped his gameplay. So I think not enough people are putting themselves in the position of other people. They're just thinking about what's going to be best in their game, when really you can actually find out what's best for your game through other people's games.
Mhm.
So I'm interested to see if Aaron will figure that out
Right.
uh, before it kind of bites him in the butt. Because unfortunately, I'm not seeing him being a pre-merge boot. I'm thinking he's going to make it to the individual portion of this game.
Yeah. Do you think his card is up once he gets to the merge? Do you think he'll have enough footholds to make it far, or do you think it'll just kind of crash and burn?
I think he has the ability of being the final original Lyra member in the game.
Wow. All right. That'd be interesting to see if that happens.
Yeah,
Um,
because
I
I
have.
think he's
Mhm.
giving the other side all that reassurance that he's going to work with them. So why get rid of him when they can take
Mhm.
him as deep in the game as they want and then cut him off?
I just right now I find the old Lyro tribe, so fascinating. Seeing how these people are navigating the swap. Um,
Mhm.
I am thinking about, ahead to another swap or, further on to the merge. I am really interested to see how the Lyra people make their way through this game. And there's obviously people on Vokai that are interesting to me, but the Lyra people are the ones that got me hooked.
Uh-huh. It kind of feels like Ghost Island all over again.
It does, with the purple team having the numbers,
Dominating.
and Malolo, the orange team, being the team that was
picked off one by one.
Every challenge, losing everything, and well, let's hope we don't get that this year. Let's hope we get some fun mix-ups. Is there anything else you want to say about this episode before we wrap up?
I mean, I'm trying to think of my drop your buff moment, and I really do think it was that moment of finding out that the person sitting out of the challenge was going to be the one going to the idols, because I think that really would have influenced how people voted for who was going to sit out of the challenge had they known. We've seen in previous seasons of whoever sits out is going to Exile Island, but this was done without their knowledge. And Jeff just said, all right, Elaine, you're going to Idol of Idols. He just dropped it on them, and they were all like, and I think everybody kind of, had that moment.
I was hoping we'd have something random again, but we saw Elaine pull a name out of a bag again. I hate that. Come on, let's mix it up. Hopefully, or maybe it's something different, but let's hope it's something different this time. I forgot one other drop your buff moment.
Oh my God, tell me.
Rob and Sandra's shelter mansion.
Okay, that's pretty damn impressive.
My jaw literally dropped. I was like, and I started laughing, what is happening right now? That is insane. So that's what they've been doing on the island while they've been bored.
I kind of think that's what Rob's been doing since they've been bored. Because I looked at that. I'm like, there's a lot of rope there. I think he's definitely being given some resources in order to make something pretty incredible. And you know what? They're not playing the game. They're out there influencing how the game goes for other people. So by all means, give them resources. Let him make a lavish, camp out there. I'm all for it. Because he's in construction.
Yeah, he's a construction worker. And he's made wonderful shelters during his past games. I hope they leave it out there in the middle of Fiji. I don't want them to tear it down. I want to go visit it someday and visit Boston Rob's shelter mansion.
Let's go visit. We'll go and check it out.
Yeah, it sounds like a plan. All right, that's all I've got for this episode. What about you?
Well, I would love to have that discussion again of who do we think's in a great position, who are our wild cards, and who is really in trouble.
I think we saw Lauren in trouble. We just saw her in a really troubling light. So she is my power player, but I'm scared for her. Last week I said Elaine was my wild card, and baby boy, Elaine is still that wild card. She could swing one way or the other. She is just woo.
So I said that Elaine was in trouble, and I think I was right in saying that, not knowing that she was going to get an advantage.
Yeah.
But in saying that,
I
still think she's in trouble. I don't think that this has garnered her a power position by any means. She used her advantage. She is now back in the fold as a regular player with the rest of them. And I don't know that she's got the tightest alliances going forward. I do think that Elizabeth might think she has a better relationship with Missy than Elaine.
Right.
But that, I think Missy is going to have Aaron. Missy's going to have Elizabeth. But Elaine's kind of doing things on her own, especially after a move like that. The other side of her tribe isn't necessarily going to want to work with her either.
Yeah. I mean, that's true. Now think of the other tribe. Do we see doing great on Lyra right now?
Well, I mean, you've got Dean and Karishma who, do we think that they're in trouble? Do we think that they have to watch out? Or do we think they're kind of a wild card at this point?
It feels like that this episode showed that the next tribal for them will be ripe for the blind side, or there will be a flip going on. You know what I mean? We didn't see any of Karishma. So I don't, but the Survivor this season, the editors have just really surprised me every vote. So I don't even know what to say anymore.
Well, I think that with the Lyra tribe, we might see Jamal and Jack being ostracized again as those players, the king and Jack.
Yeah.
We also can see Noura falling back into the pattern of being that annoying person that we can just get her out of the tribe. I mean, but Nora's a bit of a beast in challenges. We saw her physically pull Karishma along with her body, not with her arm,
In the
with
sand.
her body. So I do think that
never
it's going to be
forget.
right. Never forget. I do think we're going to see people like Kelly and Janet calling the shots on that side, and
Yeah,
I
we
don't
will.
know. I don't know if it's necessarily going to be Karishma or Dean that's going to be the first vote out there. It might be Noura.
I think it might be Noura.
It could be Noura. I think it could either be Noura or Jamal. That's kind of where I'm sitting. It's going to go one of two ways in my mind.
And both of those ways would be sad.
Both of those ways would be sad. I'm definitely more of a fan of Jamal now, knowing what he's about as a person. Because he was kind of coming across as just this game player, but we've definitely seen his personality now, where his heart lies. That's always gonna sucker me in. I love the story of the underdog, the truthful person, the person who's playing for a reason.
Yeah.
And I do kind of want to see how he would go in a merge situation where he is playing an individual game. But by no means do I think he's in a power position. I do think my power players right now, I'm going to stick with Janet, but I'm also going to throw Kelly up there.
Yeah, I would agree. Kelly is definitely in an amazing spot. So I'm ready for next week. Bring it on.
I am so ready. And I just want to say that I love your efforts of getting that Boston Red Sox hat to play up your Boston Rob. I mean, I applaud you on your accent because I do not have the chops to do a Sandra accent, and I absolutely do not have the chops to do a Boston Rob accent. So I commend you on your efforts.
Thank you. Well, let's see if I can deliver our closing message with my Boston Rob accent. Okay, let's go for it. Also, shout out to my dad for the hat. Thanks, Dad. All right.
Yay.
Remember to subscribe to our podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, or find us on YouTube where we video record our conversations. Our channel is Drop Your Buffs. Survive for chat with Djon and Hannah. Oh, I feel so bad for everybody listening. They probably hate this so much.
Keep
and
going.
I talk so much slower. Okay. You can find us on Twitter at Drop Your Buff Pod. You know the Twitter. Dion's handle for everything is Djon Alexander, spelled DJON. But I don't even know what voice this is.
Don't question it. Just keep going.
Okay. Last one. Hannah's handle for everything is Hannah Gilia, spelled Gilia. All right. I just, once again, disgraced my Boston family. I'm telling you, this summer when I go visit them, I'll come back and I'll have a fresh Boston accent for you.
Amazing. I loved it. I love you. Thank you so much for being a co-host with me on this wonderful podcast.
Co-stars,
Co-stars, yes.
Yes, it was so much fun, and I can't wait to talk next week. Everybody enjoy your Halloween festivities, and hope that you can also find your own palm frond to hide behind to be Sandra.
Please.
All right, bye everyone.
Bye.
Everybody, drop your buffs.
Drop your buffs.
Everybody, drop your buffs.
Drop your buffs.
Everybody, drop your buffs.